All right, well, welcome, and we are here to talk about a clear mind. We're going to talk about a clear mind. We're going to talk about the mundane and the sacred and law, one of my favorite topics, and how those three intersect. But first, I want to know if you have heard what the ego said to the higher self when he walked into the room. What did he say? When the higher self walked into the room, now let me start again, because when the ego said to the higher self when he walked into the room, Tracey, read the joke better. He said, oh great, now I'm going to be seen for what I really am. I got more, just in case that didn't land. A seeker asked, how do I find the sacred in the mundane? How do we find the sacred in the mundane? And the master replied, start looking at your to-do list and then surrender. That's not so easy to do, is it? Huh? And why did the minister bless the Wi-Fi router? Anybody know why the minister blessed the Wi-Fi router? Because a strong connection on a Sunday is everything you need. But that doesn't mean you take out your phones. Okay. All right. Thank you for suffering through my jokes. I appreciate it. But today we are going to talk about a clear mind, the foundation of transformation, and embarking on a new journey to start the transformation. Move it a little ways. Away a little bit. We're experimenting with the new microphone, so thank you. I don't know, ever the people use it, it works, but I tell you, my energy, it just makes everything electric. I'm going to equate it to that because I'm out of the negative business these days. So there you go. I am a bright shining star, and all my energy makes things go wishy-washy-war. These are the songs I sing to my kids. Anyway, you gotta have a little fun. It's Sunday. Why so serious? It's fun day Sunday. There we go. But the path of recognizing the mundane and the sacred, and how those two intersect, and that this is the reality of our lives. And often in ministerial school, we had to write a lot of reports about the sacred and the mundane. And when I first started reading about that, honestly, I didn't really care and didn't know what it was. And so I had a really hard time writing that paper. But as you deepen in your spiritual life, you recognize that we are in search of the sacred through the mundane, through our everyday life. And we don't always recognize that our everyday life is the sacred. When I meet and talk with my teacher, I always say, well, when are we going to get to the spiritual stuff? And he said, Tracey, your life is the spiritual stuff. That all of those vasanas, all of those tendencies, compulsions, and habits, whether you consider them negative or positive, that they must come to the surface and be looked at. They must be allowed to pass through and transform. And sometimes we don't recognize what those habits and compulsions are in our lives because we're busy living our lives through that belief system. And it's not until somebody lovingly comes and says something to you, well, maybe lovingly, maybe not, I don't know. But it isn't until that moment, excuse me, this is slipping off here, I think that's the problem, that moment comes and you start to recognize if you're defensive to that person who comes to lovingly, who has earned the right to give you feedback, first of all. But if you have a defensive or reactionary a movement, outward movement, to explain yourself, there's probably a little clue there that in your life, in the mundane part of your life, that there is maybe some trauma. So under defensiveness, under over-talking, under anger, frustration, fear is usually hurt. Hurt, when it isn't expressed, is manifested in a myriad of ways. Some of those things are the example. And they seem to help, they are very helpful on the road to spirituality because they are pointers that's telling you, hey, off base a little bit. And what we have a tendency to do if we are not recognize these compulsions, and if we don't stop and look at them, or we don't inquire into the things that we're afraid about ourselves that we don't want other people to see, but they see. If we don't stop there and just ask what's underneath there or do a deep dive inquiry, then one thing is for sure, you'll get more of it. Now, it is a personal journey on the spiritual path to get in contact with that higher self and to use the law to express and manifest in the outward world. But there is the reason to look, the reason why we come here is very personal to you. So the question that has been coming up for me is, why here? Why now? Why CSL? Why Ernest Holmes, or any Sunday adventure where you are seeking higher wisdom or looking to have your heart broken open to be engulfed by that sacredness, which is already present in you. It is your true nature. So it seemingly looks like that we are on a journey towards something, when really we're on a revealing of something. That thing that you already are, hidden under those compulsions that we took on, habits, vasanas, whatever you want to call them, that we've taken on to be our everyday life. Now, what happens is when these things come up, we like to go out, and our senses inform us, right? What we see, what we taste, what we touch, what we feel. And we start the journey typically with our senses looking for the sacred. And we try to find it in our everyday life. So there's a transformation that happens when we start to show up and we want something different. We don't quite know what it is, but we know it feels better than where we're at. Or we have a great life and we have everything that we could possibly want. And you attract many things, manifest many material things, but something still isn't quite right, or it still feels like it's missing. So as we traverse the mundane, however your perception of your reality has created that life for you, because mine is very different than yours because I've had different experiences. In my reality, in my mental attitude, my vasanas, my compulsions are my business. But if they're interacting with yours, we might bump heads, right? And if we don't stop and look at our outward movement, without holding the person responsible, then we are sure that wherever you go, you're going to take you, that personality, that compulsion, that vasana with you. So in a clear mind, we start to see that we take on practices. We teach classes here at Prescott Centers for Spiritual Living to help us look at how to transform out of the compulsive habits, negative, some people call them vices and virtues, some people call them negative and positive habits, but really what it is a compulsion to be you. And I am aware of my negative, what some people might label negative attributes. I can overtalk when I'm nervous. I can talk too fast, as some of you might have heard in the past. Hopefully I'm doing better with that one. I can really, really avoid my hurt. And somebody who lovingly, I sat down to talk with somebody, and we were having a very lovely conversation, and this very wise person said to me, I feel Tracey, I feel hurt. And I said, okay. And we entered into this conversation. And what happens when you start to look at yourself is that spirit reveals it in a bigger and profound way. That once you say, okay, spirit, that thing that person said really kind of bothered me a little bit. And instead of staying away from them, hiding or running, I want to look at it. I want to understand how or when I became indifferent to my feelings. And spirit answers always with inquiry. This is the transformation that starts to happen. We move from an intellectual idea to principles and into the embodiment of knowledge that helps lead us to an opening where the mundane starts to show us where we need to grow. Or, I like to say, what needs to be revealed. Because it doesn't really matter unless it matters to you. right? It doesn't really matter who you're being, how you're being, unless you go home at night and go, well, that didn't go so well, or gosh, I really would like this, or I really would like that, or I'd like to change this, or I'd like to change that. Those things are typically when we start to move from the mundane aspect of life to the sacred, and then we seek a clear mind. Through a clear mind, the higher knowledge and wisdom is revealed to you. It's such a beautiful process. And we here use the law for that to happen. The universal law does not discriminate. What your life is a commanding of the law, whether you know it or not. What you have right now in your life is your belief system in action, showing to you that there may be a unconscious, if you don't like it, belief running about you, about the world, and it is often demonstrated through your mental attitude. And if you're really paying attention, the power of the law will always show you. You might turn away from it, you might ignore it, you might not want to even change it, and that's okay. But one thing we want to get clear is that the power of neutrality, meaning the law, does not judge. People judge. And we judge from those vasanas and habits that we have other people because we're not going within and looking at our own. And what you need to know about those vasanas, I keep saying that word, but that's your pattern, your habit, your energetic pattern of moving, how you move through the world, your livingness of life, attract to you the same and equal frequency. So if you keep running into people that are driving you crazy, it's not them. I've learned this because I've went from job to job to job, and in the beginning it's really good. You're in a new place, you're like, oh, freedom, and guess who shows up? That pattern, it always shows up. Now you might be on the path and a new job might open up to you, so it will probably be energetically slightly different than what you've experienced. But the beautiful thing about it is that because the law is neutral, it is love. If the law wasn't neutral and didn't give to you exactly your belief about yourself, I like to say it's not really who you are, it's what you are that it's bringing to you. So if you're not really profoundly taking this in and looking at it, there will be, if you like the word or dislike the word, suffering. I do, because I got tired of being on that rat race, that Ferris wheel, and I started to notice an inclination of complaining and being negative. And the law gives you more of what you are. And I was like, And I wanted to hide from it. I didn't want it to be who I was, because it was in discordance to the idea, the new higher idea I held for myself. So I had to stop and look at it. And what I discovered through the loving advice of this very wise person was, Tracey, under pain, fear, frustration, aggravation, and complaining is hurt. And you have to look at it if you want to transform. You have to look at it if you want to be free. You have to look at it, because if you don't, you're going to attract people who can't feel theirs. And amongst a lot of things, nothing will get done. But most importantly, that you're always meeting you. In relative terms, the world doesn't exist. Maybe that's higher terms. That the world really is an illusion, and that you're only ever talking about you. But because you're creating and casting your reality from your belief system, it can only bring you equal to what you are, what you have, what you do. And it isn't until a higher idea gets a little earworm inside there and starts wiggling around and starts you questioning. And so as you start to question, Ernest Holmes says this: the law is always working and always producing according to thought. It is not selective and it is not impersonal. It is impersonal. I got that wrong. Sorry. It is impersonal, meaning it doesn't care if it's me or you or anybody else. And so what does this have to do with having a clear mind? Well, If you then wish to transform to newer, higher ideas, to have that wisdom of the ages intuited through you, to know what to do and respond to your life, then a clear mind is absolutely necessary. And a clear mind can't happen if you have crazy thoughts all the time, all the time. Ernest Holmes doesn't say, change your thoughts, change your life. He says, change your thinking, change your life. And the power of choice in your life and changing your thinking is to stop and say, how does this compulsion that I'm trying to hide from the world that everybody really sees, how is it getting me to my next idea of myself? How is it serving me? How is it serving my community, my family, my nation? How is it making what we might call a better world? Well, you know, our idea is we're creating a world that works for everybody, but we can't do that since there's only you until you create a better world that works for you. That is an inside job. The I touch, I think, I see, I feel, I do are all outward movements to the world. And that's good because we want a beautiful world. And that's what our philosophy says is you can have that and intuit the wisdom of the ages. You become aware. You become aware and you start to use your awareness to start experiencing life instead of your mind. You start asking the right questions. We start asking the right questions. Why did this happen to me? What was my clear intention? One of the things, I woke up in the middle of the night. Spirit has been running this talk in a myriad of ways through my mind, so I had no idea how it was going to come out today. But I trust that it was needed to be said, and so I trust how it is being said. And the more I directly experience that, the more I know, the more my faith grows, the more my focus moves from the outward movement to the inward movement, the clearer my mind comes. Because then I can just recognize those thoughts and just let them go. Right? Now, we use thinking, I got to brush my teeth, I got to go to work, because often that's the thing, right? Well, if we don't have thoughts like I have to take the trash out, well, that's a thinking thought. That's your movement in everyday life. But the thoughts that run rampant, that we don't pay attention to, are the ones that are pointing to us the unconscious things that we are avoiding for the greatness of you, the light that you are, the shining bright light that you are to be revealed. Only you will know how to do that, and only it, that is you, will know how to do that through your particular embodiment. And so what we do here is help you to pay attention to those things. We teach you to know what you want. Why are you here? We teach you to align your vision with intention and action. Treat and move your feet. So many people ask me about treat and move your feet. And I always stumbled with that answer, and I have really been meditating on that and asking Spirit to show me what that really means. What that means is you get good and you ought to have it, right? If you want something, you ought to have it, and it is yours. It is yours before you even ask for it. But you must align your vibrational frequency to it. Right? How do we do that, Tracey? Well, we get clear. And treat and move your feet is to have the desire. Now, I have been asked for 5 years, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then I will say what I want, and then when it comes, I'm like, well, that's not what I ordered. And then it's said to me, well, then you weren't clear about what you wanted. Go back again. No, but nope, go back again. The law is love. Always giving to you unto what you believe about yourself. And when you start to get clear, you're going to have to place that order. You're not going to get pizza in a sushi place, right? You're not. Well, you might, but if you order sushi and you get pizza, then you're not commanding the law in a clear way. And love brings you unconsciously or consciously that which you are. That's the beauty of the law. That's the magnificence of your intelligence. That is the epitome of love, is that it can't hold you against you. It wants to reveal to you the beauty that you are through the habits that you've collected over time. They were protection mechanisms. They were things. I didn't get up one day and go, I'm not going to feel hurt anymore. No, something hurt very deeply at some point in my life, and I said I'm not going to give that to them. And my wise teacher said, well, that's great, because you're not giving it to yourself either. There is no them, Tracey. What you withhold, you're withholding from yourself. And if you withhold it from yourself, you cannot realize and directly experience the magnificent bliss that you are. That is the love. That is the teaching. That is what Ernest Holmes was pointing to. That we should give conscious direction to our thought, and we shall get conscious results. That's how we're going to build this community. That's how we're going to improve our lives. How often do we accept less than what we desire because we believe it's too much to ask for? That, oh, well, it's here, so that must be what God wanted for me. Oh, well, it's meant to be. That statement drives me crazy, by the way. It's a conundrum in my mind, because it is meant to be, but it's not meant to be. It's kind of it's just the conundrum. But the reality is, what makes it true is it's that way because that's the way you wanted it. And that's so hard for the mind, who is not the spiritual essence of you, makes sense of the mundane. And we are moving from the mundane to the sacred, and we are going on a journey of revealing to you that which you already are. It's like having a necklace. I was looking for my glasses. I'm running all over trying to get ready this morning. I'm like, where are my glasses? And Luke goes, on your face. That's it. That what you're looking for, you already are. And you come to a place like this because Spirit is drawing you here. Your mind might tell you your neighbor brought you, or it's a good place to be, or I ain't got better to do. But Spirit brought you here. You cannot come into a vibrational frequency of knowing your freedom if it doesn't resonate with you on some level. And we all got work to do. We all have work to do. It's just the amazing thing about our center and what we do. Now, moving beyond illusion from cause and effect. Cause and effect is our friend, and you are causation. Your body might be effect, right? Two people got together, made a baby, you've got this body, but the thing that inhabits that body, that essence, is you, causation, meaning you can use the law to make it work and command your external experiences, and you can play with it. Reverend Cheryl always says, on my mountain I play with everything. I am a wizard with a wand, casting the energies about to bring my life good, because I am good and I ought to have it. And I'm going to leave you with that as we progress through the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about a clear mind. We're going to be talking about going out and blame and shame and guilt and what that really means for us inside in different ways for each of us. We're going to consider moving to a new idea of ourselves. We're going to consider manifesting that thing that you really want. We're going to consider the opulence of Spirit as you. And as we do that and that vibration grows, so does this community. We are going to release guilt and blame. There is no need for shame, only awareness of it. Because once it's seen, it cannot be unseen. And once you pull up the weed, it's like it never existed. That one's gone. So when we understand our patterns, when we look, we are free to release them and create the world that works for you, which is the world that works for everyone. Just think of your life in the way you want it. I said this to my daughter. I said, why is it so easy for us to ruminate on the negative, on the things we don't like, the things we're afraid people think about us, how we want to avoid it, how we're going to change, and we keep showing up in the same way. But we can't sit for 5 minutes and visualize the life that we want, the house we want to live in, the fullness of nature and spirit. How come that becomes so difficult for us? We get antsy, we want to move, we don't believe it, all the rampant things come for us. But we can get up and get on the phone and go, do you know what she did to me? Easy. Because it's a compulsion. And we need to change the tide. I'm so sorry. We need to change the tide. We need to change the momentum so that you become awareness and that you're not trying to stop a moving train. You let the train go, and then you turn around and you look at it and you say, not today, not anymore. I'm replacing that with a higher idea. And if you can't think of one, call someone that can give you one. That's what we have practitioners for. That's what we have books for. That's what we have classes for. Let's be the example of why people want to walk through our doors. I am moving in that direction, and I invite you in your grace and goodness that you are to move with me. Practice a guided meditation. Practice a mantra. Ask key questions. Use the journal sheets. Show up on Sunday. Take a class. Volunteer. Be of service to a community that wants you to see the essence of beauty about yourself. It's time to put all of the differences down and be what we say we are and live that life of love, because that is your nature. That is the beauty of who you are. And I'm calling that here. I'm calling it now, and I'm calling it good. And I am commanding the law in this moment that we should all walk out of here knowing that highest truth with a clear mind and an open heart, moving from the mundane to the sacred and blessing it all as good. Everything that has happened to you in your life has brought you to this moment, so therefore it is good, and it is now, and so it is. I think I just have an oddly shaped head. Oh, one of these days. Okay, all right. I just know right here, right now, the truth, the essence, the love, the divine energy that creates this world, each and every person's own particular awareness and reality. That because you created this, you could create so much more. And if you've created so much more, it can be even bigger. The law is at your command. Be the wizard with the wand and yield it freely. Open up doors to your highest truth, knowing that anything, any discordant fact, any idea that comes across as not good enough, guilt, shame, blame, they are just pointing you from that world into this one, where all things reign supreme. The grace of the beloved is expressing as you, and we surrender to that. We become that. We transform into that. We use the personality instead of it using us. We listen to the wisdom with a clear mind and intuit it and use that discernment to set the desire and the intention and the action, and we move in faith, and as it manifests, we see that reality becomes ours, and directly through experience that no one else can give us, we have our own moment of reality that assures us that grace and divine nature of love and light is who we truly are. I call this now, I call it good. I call it truth. I call it wisdom. And that wisdom through me is yours. There is only one, and that one essence of love is holding space within your heart for the highest idea to be revealed one moment at a time. We release this into the wind, knowing it cannot be returned void, that the law only brings us our new and highest idea, that I am love, I am goodness, I am graciousness, and I attract all that I need and everything that I have. And it feels like bliss. Releasing it, gratitude for it, thankful for it. I know it for it. I know that truth. It is done, and so it is.